Have you ever talked about all the aspects that a simple term such as culture may involve?
In fact, we were having a conversation about it and we came up with a great question. Is culture only about differences between traditions?
In other words, is there a further meaning for culture?
In order to solve our doubts, we looked for information.
And we found an interesting book by Anne Winterguest and John McVeigh, which is Tips for Teaching Culture, Practical Approach to Intercultural Communication.
In the first chapter of this book, there is a captivating section related to the dimensions that culture has.
Can you imagine that culture has 5 dimensions? So, let's get to know them.
The first dimension of culture, identity, is divided into two ranges, collectivism and individualism. The authors stated the idea of Tim Toomey, who says that individualism focuses on the individual needs and rights, while collectivism focuses on group rights and promote harmony and cooperation within the group. For example, those cultures that tend to place more importance only on the individual needs and rights are easier to find in countries such as United States, Australia, and large parts of Europe, while the collectivism ones are more often in answer countries including China, India, and Japan.
The second dimension, hierarchy, is related to the level of acceptance of an equal distribution of power. Thus, this dimension reflects how people cope with the government decisions in different parts of the world. Hierarchy consists of two different perspectives regarding power, which are large power distance and small power distance. Cultures with large power distance tend to assimilate the inequality since it is something common in their context. Some people have power and others don't, and from their point of view, that's just the way it is. This culture value traditions and try to keep society stable in order to prevent any kind of disorder that changes power relations. Some countries, such as Guatemala, take place in this category due to the low levels of education, corruption, and racism.
Yo desayuno entre veces pollo, carne entre desayuno con.
¿Tú ayudas en la casa de tus papás?
Sí, entre veces.
Y lo que tu papá trabaja te ayuda para poder ir a la escuela o a veces buscas el trabajo.
Entre veces.
On the other hand, according to Think to Me, in 1999, cultures with small power distance are inclined to make society equality prevail. Thus, they value the equal and fair distribution of power and rights. For example, countries such as Denmark and Ireland value democracy. Students in schools and university are encouraged to express their opinions as same as the employers of organizations.
Social gender role is the third dimension of culture, and it is about the roles that are supposed for males and females according to the society expectations. For example, in the traditional gender roles, it is often believed that women should assume the role of mothers. However, nowadays these beliefs do not persist too much and the role for women and men are not too traditional.
Fourth dimension, which is the truth value, is the dimension of uncertainty, which emphasizes cultures that are either oriented toward uncertainty or toward creating certainty and stability. Hofstede described this as a society tolerance for ambiguity. Societies that are in high uncertainty avoidance are rule bound and pay more attention to written procedures, rules, or goals. Individuals who have a higher need for formalized structures, procedures, or diplomacy tend to minimize their uncertainty levels in order to cope with the unknowns of their situations. Someone who is on the other extreme about the rules and procedures, they are more flexible in their attitudes toward rules and policies. The fifth dimension is the dimension of the time, virtue, which speaks to how communicates are oriented toward space and time, including their tendency toward traditions and the past, and their orientation toward the future and the present. In many cultural systems, holding onto tradition is important in current day-to-day operations and relationships. Some societies will refer to traditions to preserve and to maintain cultural norms, that is, to protect what currently exists. Time is also a reference to a culture's orientation towards tasks or relationships. For example, a manager from the United States who travels to India to negotiate a business contract needs to know that meetings will occur whenever people show up to the meeting, which could be hours after it is scheduled. A task-oriented leader is certain to be frustrated when he meets up with an Indian who is more time-oriented toward relationships. In the American perspective, promptness is professionalism, yet in the other perspective, the concept of time is more loose and flexible. Okay, after studying the dimensions of the culture, it is necessary to say that as teachers, we need to include during our classes activities like critical situations in which students can apply the content that we already taught. Aspects like gender, time, and the importance of customs and beliefs are things that we need to share during the English classes. Finally, we hope you can find this video interesting and that you can use it in your future classes.